Hello and welcome to the Rest is Lean podcast, series 3. Yes, we've made it to a third series. Thanks so much for all the subscribers, for all the watching, the viewings, both on YouTube and all other platforms. The series wouldn't be anything without you guys. Keep the questions, keep the comments coming. Enjoy series 3, hopefully as much as you've enjoyed series 1 and 2. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the other side. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Rest is Lean podcast with my fine colleague Russell Watkins.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, anywhere.
And my good self, Alan Lothian. It's with deep regret. We have got some sad news to start off the podcast today. It's with deep regret. We have to announce the absence of our other fine colleague, John D. He's had some really difficult news. Actually, no, he hasn't. He just can't be arsed. All right. So John, thanks very much for leaving us in the lurch. We'll remember it for next time, and we shall make sure we shall have, during the course of this podcast, hopefully be around about 30-35 minutes long. We'll try and get as many jibes in as we possibly can.
Christ, yeah, because I remember about 3 months ago, I let you two down for one, and you never let me forget it. In fact, I think it's probably the second or third highest scoring episode, so it tells you something.
We're not doing it on purpose, let's put it that way. God help me if I have to miss one.
That's right.
So anyway, mate, how have you been? What have you been up to since we last spoke?
Very good. Busy, working across various clients, some manufacturing, some non-manufacturing, getting ready for a trip to Japan in 6 weeks' time.
Oh, wow.
I'm off down to Bournemouth later this week. I'm around the Midlands early part of the week. So busy and still learning, I'm pleased to say.
Good on you. Tell us a little bit more. Tell us a little bit more about Japan if you can.
Japan, so I go for 2 weeks. So I've been a number of times, but my family have never been. So we're combining a family and business trip. So I'm doing some work in some manufacturing over there, taking a look at some sites, taking some people to some places. And then we're meeting up as a family. And the kids are flying in. My kids are older now, and they said, can we come? I said, sure. You're both earning wages now, so you're welcome to join us. You're paying for yourselves, but you're welcome to join us. So they fly in, and we're gonna do the usual Tokyo Shinkansen down to Osaka, Kyoto, but we're also going to do some trail walking up around the top, and that gives me a chance to go to Kanazawa. Kanazawa, nice. Al, is craftsman central. Mm-hmm. They have a Karakuri museum there, and they have all kinds of craftsman workshops, so I'm really excited. But it's a busy period because before that there's the Gemba Summit in Belfast that I'm speaking at. So
of course you're doing that.
You know how it is when you and then you have to shoehorn clients. It sounds like I'm crying though, Al. I'm not crying, but sometimes you score an own goal where you create a period where you're ludicrously busy. Mm-hmm. But I think some of that comes from the independent freelancer, small consultancy mindset, which is you don't like to say no, but you have to learn to say no. But anyway, and so Al, what have you been doing?
Well, nothing as exciting as planned as you have. A couple of things though. As part of a little bit of ducking and diving, a bit of a charity thing we did about 2 weeks ago. So friends of ours a friend of ours, a good friend of ours, has been diagnosed with Huntington's disease, which is a dreadful disease at the best of times. Very debilitating, I think is the word. And so we put together a charity quiz show at a local place. That's which my son did. My son organised it. He's a chip off the old block, right? I do love a quiz. So you've told me about some of my backgrounds. I've been on TV and such like. Well, no, not almost TV. And I may be on TV. I may be on TV in the future. I've got a face for radio, you know that. But I may be on TV in the not too distant future. But I won't declare that just yet. Okay. All right. But so we did a fantastic evening. Our Adam did a great show. Big well done for Adam.
Yeah,
So
good work.
so that was one
Good
thing.
work, Adam.
And then slightly from a work perspective, so I do some work for a living. I was kindly invited down to Farnborough by our friends at ADS, so Aero Defence and Space. They've got a supplier resilience program kicking off, and they asked me would I come down with about 15 others to take part in the framework development.
Oh, okay.
And also coaching and training for the for the assessors, basically.
So is that
So
like a supply chain activity back in
yeah,
the
do you remember? Yeah, it's similar. So you remember the ones we used to do when we had at IF with the was it the national supply chain, national supply chains with the old DTIs it was at the time, making sure that it's not just like any old assessment, right? But how do you get some prolonged and sustained successes from it? So a good example of that has been, people can fall into the trap where we're just assessing, doing a gap analysis, but you and I both know unless there's a follow-on from that, nothing will ever move. We're just telling you how bad you are. Exactly. So it's really pushing that key message that yes, it's okay doing the assessment and getting the gaps, but if the experience and the expertise isn't there to help them along to make them that little bit better, then what your end game is, and that is supply chain resilience, is never going to come to fruition. But it was a really, really great couple of days, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I've not been down to Farnborough before.
And that's the important bit, Al. That point you raise about the assessing for the sake of assessing is pointless. There's no point in knowing you're not particularly skilled at something if you're going to remain not particularly skilled at something. For example, you assess them against a list of lean tools or the ability to deploy, and you're scoring them against a 5 against 100 questions. That would mean that if they scored a 5 and had a nice fat radar chart, then they would be total lean knowledge. I think that's pointless and irrelevant, because the question is, what is their gap to the business need?
Correct.
And that's where we come back once again to situational. So it's not what is the gap to perfect lean knowledge, it's what is the gap to business needs. And secondly, the end game's got to be self-reliance. That was what Mixam was always strong on. There was everything he told us when he savaged us for an hour and a half every night after being with the team all day. He could have squeezed that into 10 minutes if he just told us the answers. But he didn't want to.
Correct.
He wanted us to discover the answers. And as painful as it was, like pulling teeth, his goal was the Toyota goal, which is self-reliance, the ability to more objectively reflect on what you've done, think about what went okay and what didn't go okay, and then do something different next time.
Yeah.
And I think on a macro scale, that kind of supply chain program needs to build in some self-reliance as well. And I remember in my non-award-winning book, Adventure in Lean Landau, which didn't trouble any awards, I interviewed Mick in that for the end. And one of his biggest frustrations when he first started training UK engineers, when he came over from Japan in '98, maybe, because I was with him 97, maybe.
Yeah, it's in 97, 98. I was in 2000. So
one of his biggest frustrations was that they'd stand there by the production line, and he'd be very quiet. He'd say nothing, and just watch the line. And they would be talking while the line was working, and so he'd give them a shoe in and say, look, at least they're doing something. You're just talking. Just watch. And after you've watched, form a question, because good learning starts with a question. So I want you to think of a question, having watched a line about something you don't understand.
Yeah.
Then you create a pull-on learning. And I think that's another part of the thinking where you try to get into us. I did it recently with somebody. I said, but I have to frame it now. I said, look, we're going to watch the line together. His name was Paul, actually. I said, we're gonna watch the line together for 25 minutes. It's going to be strange. I'm not going to say a word to you, and please don't say a word to me. And at the end, I'm going to ask you what you think. And I don't want to hear it's okay or it's not okay. I'd like to hear specifics, what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah.
And I think he found it hard to be quiet for 25 minutes. But anyway,
I can certainly do that.
Okay.
We'll make you find it out for 25 minutes. So, well, just coming very quickly, one of the things coming back down to our friends at ADS and Farnborough, the Aero Excellence crew, was and you touched on it briefly when we talk about the perception of value, because that's what it fundamentally comes down to. All right. And one of the topics was, in a roundabout way, the voice of the customer.
Now that's a coincidence. Carry on.
Which at the end of the day is so vitally important, because you mentioned before about measuring based on how close they are to what the business needs.
Yeah.
And if I take that one step further, in terms of what the business needs, well, one of the key business needs is to make money. They make more money by giving the customer what they want. So it would be nice now and again to understand what the customer actually needs and what they think of you, and how they may be able to change and diversify to increase that value add in the future. Yeah. So I don't know whether you've got any thoughts on the voice of the customer side of things.
I have. I've had a conversation on that this week with an MD. Last week with an MD about who the quality manager reports to. But we'll come back to that. Yeah. Just then, you said two interesting things for it. There's a
for a change.
So congratulations. That's £150 worth of harvest
vouchers
coming your way, Big Al. You said, first of all, you said quite rightly, you make more money by giving your customer more of what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the next sentence, you swapped the word want for need,
mm-hmm.
which is really interesting, because there is a want versus need thing. And the voice of the customer will harvest what they want, what they perceive mm-hmm. they want. Henry Ford said, if I asked people what they want, they'd have said a faster horse. Mm-hmm. But he provided a car. Polaroid, before they screwed it up and didn't make a bet on the future, Edwin, I forget his name, was it Polaroid, Kodak? I can't remember. But he created something that the market didn't want, but he perceived they needed. So there is something, I reckon, there's something about listening hard on voice of the customer, and then there's something about predicting what they're going to need, but they just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
Anyway, the voice of the customer. So the quality manager in this business, and they ship a proportion of crap out to their customers, so they have problems through warranty and through returns and all the usual costs associated with that. The quality manager reports to the ops director, and so with the MD, I said, you've all due respect, you've got this wrong. I understand fundamentally it seems to make sense that you give the ops director all the resources that they need, and they live and die by their own sword. So you give them engineering, you give them maintenance, you give them quality, and you say, okay, now please don't tell me you can't control this, that, or the other, because I've given you everything. I said, quality manager is a special one, because you can't mark your own homework, and the quality manager, unless they're a really strong character, will come under sustained pressure to massage, fudge, interpret the numbers in a way that makes operations look better, or maybe filter the truth. And the quality manager should report directly to the MD to be the unfettered, unfiltered voice of the customer. What's your view, Al? Should the quality manager always report straight to the MD?
If you'd have asked me 15, 20 years ago, I'd have said yes, undoubtedly. All right. I don't think, like everything, I think it's horses for courses. I think a lot of it is, and I've worked in organizations I've had both. So I've had quality managers reporting to me, and I've also had quality managers or quality directors as my peers. Okay. And in both cases on more than one occasion, and one's worked well and one hasn't worked quite so well. And the reason for that is, I think it comes down to is the relationship that you have between operations or production and quality. Also, I would say, and this is no disrespect to any of my colleagues in the past, is it also depends on the outlook and view of an operations person and with respect to quality, and a quality manager's view with respect to production. Because
So do you mean the ops person sees them as a policeman, and the quality people see themselves as the policeman?
Yes. Yes. In many cases, right? I'll give you one example. I was in a situation whereby predominantly I'm looking at the operation as a whole. Production at the end of the day is key, because at the end of the day, if you're making product, it's getting the right product out to the customer when they want it at the right price, all that good stuff. With the quality manager or the quality director, it's okay being the policeman, but it's then that old adage is, are we giving the customer what they want at that point in time? Okay. Or is the quality manager wanting to give the customer more than what they want? So they've set their ceiling at a much higher level than what we need to provide at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beyond the drawing and PFMEA requirement.
Correct.
Until we're up against shipping, and somehow without a concession they say it'll be all right today, you can ship them.
Absolutely. And the point, the discussion I always used to have, I said, look, whilst I admire and I agree, and I say to my production managers, yes, we need to have a view that we can be better than where we are today. Okay. The reality, I say, is the danger you have is if you start giving them more than what we are contractually obliged to, that becomes the new norm. So then when you're going to the next level where there's a value proposition to increase value, we've lost it. Yeah. Because you've already applied it as the norm. Okay.
And on the days when you can meet the drawing standard but not the artificial standard you set,
correct.
They perceive it as a problem, as a defect.
Correct, exactly. So I have been in a couple of situations where, arguably almost you have the bun fights between production and quality, and quite frankly, then you're having to be, as ops director, you're then having to be arbitrator to say, well, look, actually, does that meet fit, form, and function and the contractual requirements of the customer at this moment in time? Yes, it does. Then ship it. Okay. All right. But it's then to have that conversation between the two to say, look, guys, we're not dissing what you're saying, what quality are suggesting, but that's an opportunity to improve, to make more money for the business. And as you know, quite rightly from my background, the goal of any organization is to make money. All right. So if there's an opportunity to make more money, we don't want to lose that. Yeah. Okay. So it's having that conversation. So it's coming back to what I said before. It's the relationship, not necessarily the organizational function. I'd be saying to the MD or the CEO of that level and saying, look, it's about knowing your people at the end of the day. Where do you see them? Your head's on the chopping block for increasing value, turning over, and profitability, and cash in the bank. Okay. You don't want to lose an opportunity to improve that. Yeah, and give it potentially give it away for free. So yeah, like I say, 20 years ago, I think the textbook sensible answer is yes, keep them separate. We've had the conversation in the past about, should we say, CI people or OPEX managers and who they should report into. For me, I'm still a great believer, if you're going to have somebody in that organization, that person should be reporting to the highest possible person or working with the highest possible person. Okay. Purely and I'm thinking that from a Western world perspective. In my experience, that's worked the best.
But so on the voice of the customer, it sounds like, and by the way, I agree with you in terms of the positive slant you put on it, which is we found a way to deliver more value, but we need to make sure that we are paid for that.
Correct.
That's one slant. Because there's a voice of the customer proactive, voice of the customer reactive, as in, do we hear the voice of the customer when we're doing things that aren't quite right? But it sounds like you're saying now, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here, that your structure, your management structure, org chart, if you like, that kind of thing, should, in this case, should depend on the personalities and the relationships people have.
Yeah, I would say it's about knowing your team. Yeah, exactly. So I've mentioned to you in the past, there is such a big range in operations personnel when we go into companies and quality personnel. There's always different levels. Okay, they've got different experiences. I know a good example is everyone could have been degree qualified, but in terms of their perception of how they take what they've learned theoretically and then how they apply it when they come into their organizations and have that level of responsibility can be, in my opinion, remarkably different. Yeah. At the end of the day, they should be working in partnership. And by a partnership is to help the business create value and make money. All right. But on that note, what the quality function can provide operations and production is the ability to see where the opportunity lies to make even greater value.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Rather, do you see what I mean? So it's a bit like having your, almost like having your coach to say, actually, look, that's fine. I'm not going to stand in your way. That's good to go. Off you go.
Yeah.
However, we're here. What we're working on in the background together is to get it from there to there, but behind the scenes, so that our marketing teams and our sales teams can create that additional value.
Yeah. I know. No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Al. But if you look at the voice of the customer, I just pulled up a definition of it. It's a systematic process. Systematic is a key point. You can't leave it to chance and leave it to somebody writing shitty emails to you to find out that you're
absolutely.
But it's a systematic process, so it's a conscious thing that you are doing. There's a mechanism.
Yeah.
And quality systems expect that. For capturing customer needs, wants, and feedback to guide product development, service improvement, and business strategy. Now, needs, wants, and feedback. I think there's a difference between needs, wants, and feedback. Needs, wants, maybe the voice of the customer needs to come through some kind of sales function. Needs and wants, they are actively looking to understand the market and their customers better because they probably understand them better anyway. Feedback, I think should come straight into the quality manager. Manager should not report to operations for feedback under any circumstance because it is too tempting. When there is feedback that is, you shipped us 4 defects, we can live with it. An ops manager who's being measured on their SQDCP performance is likely to say, well, we're not going to improve it. We're not going to include it in the numbers then.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a difference. But I tell you what, Al, my final point on this, our learning platform, Senpai Guide, we did a lot of testing with users. And I fully buy into the voice of the customer feedback. I'm a Kaizen person to my core. And yet it was really hard to say to people, what about this is crap? What don't you like? And you're almost a little bit fraidy to, because you have to get past, well, if there's a problem with it, we haven't done a good enough job. But actually it's not that. It's you can't possibly know everything about how the user wants to use it and will use it. But even for someone wired like we are, it's a hard thing to say, tell me where I'm bad.
Yeah. Well, all businesses should be aware of this, but there's actually, when it comes to voice of the customer, it should form part and parcel of your ISO standards.
Yeah.
So you've got 9001 declares, it doesn't say that, it's not a shall, okay, but it's a should. They should be gathering information. There's actually an actual ISO standard. I think it's something like 44001 or something like that, which looks into voice of the customer, and it's tied in with their CRM, customer or collaborative relationship management, so that sort of thing. All right. And it's funny because, you know, as you know yourself, Russ, I've been on both posts. So, you know, developing stuff through the consultancy for through 3A rather for national NMCL, so the National Manufacturing Competitive Levels that was done a few years ago. Aero Excellence that we were talking about earlier on. You know, there's an element of that within the assessment is about understanding truly what your customer's saying, telling you, so you can then turn that into improvement actions for the future. And I totally understand where you're coming from, that thou shalt come directly to the customer, okay, sorry, to the quality manager, which is absolutely fine. Okay. Before I move on, one very important thing to bear in mind when we're capturing this information is obviously we've got to consider GDPR information, because obviously capturing this can have personal and sensitive information which needs to be managed, blah 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 blah. Anyway, so you know, one of the things you've mentioned it earlier on is it's asking the right questions to in such a way that can provide you with responses that you can easily convert into improvement actions. You mentioned something earlier on. It's okay you phoning your customer. the likelihood is they're probably only going to tell you the thing that happened 5 minutes ago. They're
Yeah.
not going to take a balanced medium to long term view and say, actually, all in all, you're a pretty good supplier to me. Okay. However, and also there's different facets of providing value to a customer. It's not just the quality of the product or ability to deliver it on time in full. There's other things.
And they're only going to respond to the question you ask, Al, and the way you phrase it.
Correct.
There's a whole science around framing good questions. So
Absolutely.
There's a world of difference between is everything okay as a question, and can you tell me one specific occasion over the past 3 months where our product has let you down in terms of quality? Those are very different questions, but to some people they mean the same thing.
They mean the same thing, exactly. So I've done it many times, and you come back and you look at some of the responses afterwards. And in this occasion, they didn't come direct to me; it was indirect. And they covered quality and delivery. Obviously, you talk about cost. Is our price, or how are our prices? That always goes down as room for improvement.
Yeah.
Okay, but there's things like innovation we used to include. So how innovative are we with our products? Going back to our earlier point, where we're working behind the scenes to create additional value with new ideas. You don't want to be giving that away for free. All right. So how our levels of innovation through the eyes of the customer, that's important, and also our ease of doing business. So transactional processes, the relationships between, if there are defects, how quickly are we to responding to those and dealing with them and solving them for them? How open are we to strategic partnerships or commercial arrangements and things like that? Because every business goes through sticky periods. And again, part of what started the conversation is about supply chain resilience. We have to look after each other. It's not just customers saying to their suppliers, "Thou shalt do." We need to protect each other for the future. You want to analyze that information, and you want to turn it into something that's meaningful, that can provide a concrete improvement plan.
Quite right.
It's back to classic PDCA, and we collect it, and we probably see, and I've seen it time and time again, where it'll just form part on a strategic review agenda, and it's about 5 minutes long, and it's just the quality manager just spieling, or the engineering manager just spieling through what the feedback is, and that's it. Well, thank you very much for that.
Well, we said it before, haven't we? The purpose of collecting data is not to collect data.
Exactly.
So Al, before we wrap with a quote of the week, I think I boiled it down for our SME friends out there into the one key thing, in my opinion. Firstly, I'd like to know what John thinks, but he couldn't be bothered to turn up, so I have no idea what John thinks. If anybody wants to know, I've got his personal phone number, and I can give out his home address as well. Oh, hang on, you mentioned GDPR, didn't you? Knock on his door and ask him what he thinks about the voice of the customer. But boiling it down now, it comes down to habit again, I think, and that's if you're an SME, don't worry about creating an all singing, all dancing voice of the customer system. Just do something on a cadence and then action it. So ask a couple of questions regularly. It is the act of every month doing it that will give you value, rather than doing it once every 18 months and having 100 questions.
Now, here's a good point. Can I ask you a quick question on that? I'd welcome your view on this. You mentioned earlier about the quality function being the owner of the responses, okay?
No,
or the receiving.
The recipient, yeah.
The recipient, right? Who, in your opinion, within the organisation should go out and get the information from the customers?
I think it depends. So, Al, that's a good question. If we think about a manufacturing company, and we think about, let's think about a specific example. Manufacturing company, and we're talking voice of the customer in terms of defects. Defects are either going to come from a design issue with your product, a build issue, the way you make it inside the four walls of your factory, or a supply issue. Something's been supplied into your BOM, ain't good enough from one of your suppliers. I think somebody needs to marshal to ask those questions, but then, as Mick would say, the pain needs to be put in the right place. So if the customer base is screaming supply parts issues, they don't know it's supplied parts, but you can trace it back to supplied parts. Then I think that pain needs to be put there. But I wouldn't have multiple people going out to ask a different set of questions to the customer. I think it's perfectly acceptable to have one person, and I would think sales are the best people to ask that question because they're not wedded to operational performance.
Yeah, do you know what? And I've seen where I've seen it worked well. And again, there's horses for courses for this, in my humble opinion. I've seen it work well. I've seen it not so well. Salespeople, yes, armed with, as you mentioned earlier, the right sort of questions to ask. Yeah,
that somebody else has come up with.
Exactly.
Right.
And but also you can have technical and non-technical salespeople in terms of getting good responses back. Is if you haven't got a technical salesperson, somebody from engineering or somebody technical going with the salesperson. Yeah, because what's great there is the salesperson may not, when they're walking the Gemba, they may not necessarily see the opportunity, but a good design engineer will. Yeah.
Agree, Al.
Yeah.
What the point I was making there,
but you don't want an army, is what you're saying.
Was two separate people from inside asking similar questions at two separate times, because that's just going to annoy you.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, I'm going to give you a quote of the week, and then I've got to give you the email address, haven't I, for people who want to write in and question John's commitment to the pod.
Absolutely. We want to make sure we get plenty of abuse for John this time. Go on. So what's our quote then, my friend?
Our quote of the week is, and I've been thinking about this because we've all worked with and trained difficult people, and it was from a song lyric by the Wombats. Actually, I heard it in the car while I was traveling on Saturday, and it's watering plastic plants in the hope that they'll grow. Now, I think, like last time where we talked about if you asking a consultant to lead your lean transformation is like asking someone to go to the gym for you. I think these are separate pods, but that watering plastic plants, I have felt at points in my career like I'm watering a plastic plant, but also some of those plastic plants have turned out not to be plastic, and I've turned out to misjudge them too early.
That's a valid point, my friend. I think we've all been there. I think we've all had experiences of that, I would say.
So I think maybe there is an episode in some of these. Email address, Al.
Oh, do you want me to do it? You're going to get it wrong again?
No, I've got it. I've written it down here again, but I've written it in capitals so that I don't forget it.
Go for it then.
So it is great, more of the crap we've all been waiting for at gmail.com.
I'm going to say something. You got that with John's name in it this time. Well, hopefully he'll be back for the next one. Listen, let's wrap it up for today. Thanks for your time today, Ross. Do you know what? Without saying too much, I've thoroughly enjoyed this episode. I wonder what the missing ingredient was.
Feels better.
It just flows, doesn't it? Hey, I tell you, I've never smiled so much in my life. Anyway, let's call it a day. Listen, everybody out there, thanks very much indeed for taking the time out in your very busy days to listen to us ramble on. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. The Rest is Lean. It's on all good platforms and some bad ones as well. And the proper email address is therestislean@gmail.com.
That's it. I knew I was close.
You can remind it for next time. I was going to say John D is a beep at gmail.com, but I won't. All right. So therestislean@gmail.com. Thanks very much for your time, Russ. Thanks to everybody for listening or watching if you're on YouTube, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Take care.
Come back, John. We miss you.
No, it was fun.